On the LHSAA, LHSCA Hall of Fame show, 7 new members are welcomed into the hall. They include an Olympic medal winner, an Olympic coach, and a female basketball player and coach who has a connection to the game's history. And finally, the hall has a home. It's all up next on the LHSAA, LHSCA Hall of Fame show. Hello, I'm Kim Holden, and welcome to this year's LHSAA, LHSCA Hall of Fame show on CST. We have 7 new inductees into the hall this year. It's a special group. However, it's extra special because it is the first Hall of Fame class since the completion of the new Hall of Fame room in Baton Rouge. Located at the LHSAA offices on Old Hammond Highway in Baton Rouge, finally, the hall has a tangible area where visitors can view the plaques of 248 inductees. During the recent LHSAA convention, the Hall of Fame room was opened to the public for the first time. Hall of Famers like Covington High School coaching legend Jack Salter showed up, and he was impressed.
I heard how nice it was, and of course, since I've been here for about 10 minutes, I still have a lot to look at, but it certainly is beautiful, I can tell you. They did a heck of a job.
Before he was an All-American at LSU and an All-Pro in the NFL, Jerry Stovall was a star at West Monroe High School. That's why he was in the class of 1998.
You always want to give back. You remember those teachers that taught you. You remember the ones that disciplined you, that said you're not going to do that and perform well. And that body there of personnel was extremely, extremely critical to my life.
We can preserve a history that could just have gotten away from us. And it means an awful lot for the people that came here today.
The 2,000 square foot museum is open to the public. Now to our first inductee. He is a man who enters the hall for what he did on the playing fields as a high school athlete. However, the accomplishments of Gail Hatch after his playing career at Catholic High School in Baton Rouge may have had a greater effect on not just prep sports, but athletics at all levels. Let's meet LHSAA Hall of Famer Gail "Goose" Hatch.
Elbows high. Good.
As head coach of the U.S. Olympic weightlifting team at the 2004 Games in Athens, Greece, Gail "Goose" Hatch is accustomed to heavy lifting. But that's not the reason he's headed to the LHSAA Hall of Fame. More than half a century ago, he was a 3-sport star at Catholic High in Baton Rouge. Football, basketball, track. He was the school's MVP in each sport. In basketball, during one playoff stretch, he averaged an amazing 35 points and 22 rebounds a game.
I played forward for 3 years, which really helped out my game my senior year. So I had a powerful inside game, and I had an excellent jump shot from the corner and the wing. I was a skilled and angry offensive rebounder, and because of my track background, I could run the court extremely well. So it's just a combination of those things that helped me be a successful ball player.
He is saddened that many of today's prep athletes have become specialized. Multi-sport stars like Gail Hatch are disappearing. He thinks the athletes are being deprived of something special.
Doing these different sports, helps you with the other sport. Maybe that's one that you're going to be a little bit better in, but running track. You play basketball, football, and you run track. It's going to make you a better athlete at whatever sport you participate in.
The 50s were perhaps the golden age of high school sports in Baton Rouge. It was a decade that produced Basketball Hall of Famer Bob Pettit and Pro Football Hall of Famer Jimmy Taylor out of Baton Rouge High. Heisman Trophy winner and LSU great Billy Cannon of Estruma High School. And you can add Gail Hatch to the list of 50s phenoms. He feels much of the credit should go to someone who was ahead of his time, weight training guru Alvin Roy.
He had a big impact on us, where we all became stronger and faster and mentally tougher And there's just no question about it. And a lot of the other teams in the state and around the nation were not, weights were kind of taboo. They thought it made you muscle bound. They didn't know about the explosive type strength training that helps athletes.
Now in his 7th decade of life, Gail Hatch is still involved with weight training. The Gail Hatch weight training team has won 48 national titles and produced a number of Olympians. But he'll always be that angular athlete who participated year-round with distinction.
When you play it, it's strictly for enjoyment. I can remember Billy Cannon, Jimmy Taylor, and myself were eating lunch one day, and we all agreed that even though we went on to success at a higher level, our happiest, most enjoyable days was high school athletics.
Gail "Goose" Hatch played collegiate basketball at Northwestern State and played for the Chicago Majors in the short-lived American Basketball League. And if you're wondering about the nickname, he got it from one of his basketball heroes, Harlem Globetrotter legend Goose Tatum. Up next on the LHSAA Hall of Fame show, we honor a legendary figure in St. Landry Parish and an all-around athlete from Ruston who carries a familiar name. Welcome back. Not too many coaches can say they coached teams to undefeated regular seasons 6 times, but Donnie Pairon of Port Barre can say it. A quiet, soft-spoken, mild-mannered gentleman. He won't toot his own horn about his accomplishments. However, the fact that he is a member of the LHSAA, LHSCA Hall of Fame says it for him.
He would probably be the first to tell you he has lived a charmed life. Donnie Pairon was the quarterback on his high school team in Ville Platte in the mid-60s. His high school sweetheart Cynthia was a cheerleader, and they are still together today. He passed and ran his team to an undefeated season before amassing 257 victories as a coach. Both good reasons why he is a member of the LHSAA Hall of Fame.
When you first hear it and you think about it, you wonder, do you deserve to be in a company with these outstanding coaches and athletes, administrators, and many names went through my head. And it's just an awesome feeling to think that you're in that category with those people.
He got his first head coaching job at Port Sulphur High School at age 26. After 4 years in Plaquemines Parish, he moved on to Port Barre, where he coached for 27 years. He holds bachelor and master's degrees from USL. He knew from the start he wanted to be a coach.
I realized at a very early point that you had to be a good teacher to be a coach, and you had to be a teacher to work as a coach at the high school level. And I always knew that they went hand in hand and they were one and the same.
Perhaps the highlight of Donnie Pairon's Hall of Fame career came in 2002. The Port Barre Red Devils defeated Iota for the AA state title in the Louisiana Superdome, completing a perfect 14-0 season.
It made it exciting because we were playing the same team that we had lost to in '99, Iota High School, which was just about 40 miles away, very similar to our school and community. And that made it special. But playing in the Superdome in the state championship is probably the most memorable thing you can do as a coach and a player. And the excitement that it brings to the community is just unbelievable. And I always say this, I wish every player in Louisiana and every coach could experience that time to play in the Superdome. It's very exciting and special.
The St. Landry Parish town is proud of its athletic success. Much of that championship attitude can be traced to the man who still works hard, but lives a peaceful and rewarding life on Bayou Teche. Donnie Pairon is a Hall of Famer in every way.
Winning a state championship and having success over the years is great, but this is a good culmination of a career, and it's very humbling to be in that category and to accept it.
Back in 1974, Donnie Pairon coached Port Sulphur to a state track and field title. He also served as president of the Louisiana High School Athletic Directors Association from 1993 to 1995. Last year's Hall of Fame class included a Ruston High quarterback by the name of Brad Laird. This year, it's another Bearcat signal caller getting a call from the Hall. His name, Dan Childress.
my first reaction was, literally a loss for words. Then, which was quickly followed by just, honor in representing my community.
Dan Childress was a football, baseball, and track athlete at Ruston High School in the early 80s. He quarterbacked the Bearcats to the state football title in 1982. When he left Ruston, he held school marks in pass completions, yardage, and touchdowns. And he says the highlight of his high school career was the epic rivalry with Neville of Monroe and head coach Charlie Brown.
I started my career, my varsity career as a sophomore, very first game playing against Neville, and I ended my career playing against Neville. And the Ruston Neville games were always a big highlight, especially for me because I grew up in Monroe, and Coach Brown lived right down the street, and it was just a really, really neat story.
Childress had the good fortune of playing football for a Hall of Fame coach who just happens to be his father, LHSAA Hall of Famer Chick Childress.
My father is just simply the best all-around coach I've ever been around. The lessons that I learned from him, players come first always. Also that X's and O's, as important as they are just such a small part of what it takes for a program to be successful. That was really at the heart of our success at Ruston, and that's at the heart of what I build my teams around as well.
In baseball, Dan Childress had a 3-year career batting average of .356. He is now a successful soccer coach in Arkansas, but vows to return to Louisiana to coach football. When we return, a North Louisiana athlete who soared to great heights during his athletic career, and a Vermilion Parish pioneer in female sports. You're watching the LHSAA Hall of Fame show on CST. June 23rd, 1972, a historic date, for it was on that date Title IX was enacted, an amendment to the Constitution prohibiting discrimination based on sex under any education program receiving federal financial assistance. It was about the same time that a young teacher and coach was getting her distinguished career started. Her name, Dari Cain. A great deal has happened over the last 40 years in girls athletics, and she has loved every minute of it. Now she is an LHSAA Hall of Famer.
She graduated from McNeese State on January 15, 1971, and went to work at Delcombe High School 5 days later. Dari Cain found her little piece of heaven at the Vermilion Iberia Parishes School. She was there 36 years, starting girls' programs in 4 sports. She directed the Panthers to 17 district titles in cross country, track, and volleyball, and a basketball crown in 1981. She also posted 2 state runners-up finishes, and in 1984 she broke through for a state title in volleyball. But it was always about more than winning for Dari Cain.
They're going to be a parent, or they're going to be in a relationship, or they're going to be in a marriage that they have to be committed to. So through coaching, I get to teach them that. And that's important. And it's fun as a coach to go back right now and sit in the bleachers and watch athletes that I coached that were good athletes and they had good work ethics. And now I go back and I watch their kids play and I watch them in the bleachers watching their kids. You can't have a bigger thrill than that.
It's an even bigger thrill that Coach Cain taught just about the entire Delcombe faculty, including current principal Corey Bork, who is emphatic about what she means to the school and community.
Mama, sister, teacher, assistant principal, just so many things describes Miss Cain. She was my teacher as a high school senior. She's a fixture, and she will be a fixture for a long time. She is Delcombe, that's for sure.
In 2000, Coach Cain became Assistant Principal Cain, and about the same time she was diagnosed with breast cancer. After lots of prayers, treatment, and help from the Delcombe community in the form of this rallying quilt, she is still standing tall.
I always knew people loved me as I loved them, but when you go through something like that, you realize how much you're loved. It's what they didn't do for me, and I think coaching helped me get through cancer.
As she watches Delcombe's successful softball team go through its paces, she marvels at how far girls athletics has come since her days as an athlete at New Iberia High School. Her journey and her arrival into the LHSAA Hall of Fame is for all Panthers, past, present, and future.
I'm going to be receiving that award for Delcombe High School, and that's just a thrill. A culmination to a career that I loved. It was never a job because I loved it so much. I always wanted to come to work.
And work she did. In track, Dari Cain coached state meet qualifiers 26 straight years. She also had 4 state runners-up finishes at Delcombe High School. Our next Hall of Famer made his mark in athletics in North Louisiana. Before Hollis Conway was a world-class athlete, he was an all-state high schooler in track and field. His ability enabled him to see the world, but it all started at Fair Park High School in Shreveport, Louisiana. He earned his share of accolades, and now he is an LHSAA Hall of Famer. He set meet records and won individual state titles in the high jump and long jump, indoors and outdoors in 1985. Hollis Conway was motivated to excel athletically, but not the motivation you may think.
I wanted a girlfriend, and the only way I could get a girlfriend was be an athlete, because I didn't have the looks, I didn't have the body, I didn't have the brain. But I knew if I was famous, I could get any girl I want, because they don't care about that stuff. And so I went out for football, and coach told me to go home. I didn't get a chance to try out, and went out for basketball, got cut, and went out for track and field, just tried every event. And the only thing I made the team in was the high jump.
And he continued to jump high, ultimately clearing 7 feet 2 inches and over 50 feet in the triple jump. Hollis was undefeated as a senior and was the National Scholastic Indoor Champ in the triple jump. He says Louisiana had so much talent at the time, he had to succeed.
Well, I had a lot of competition. You know, as a high jumper, a guy named Brian Brown out of New Iberia, Don Gibbs out of Huntington. There were a few other people who before us were jumping, but we were competing to be the first to jump 7 feet. And even through my junior year, competition drives you. You want to be the best. We had some triple jumpers at our school that were a little bit better than me, and when you're a competitor, you compete. And you don't think about records, you don't think about those. Those things come later. My success was not built on everything that I did for myself. I was surrounded by a lot of people, and God just blessed me with an incredible talent.
Talent he developed and put to good use. Hollis Conway was a 6-time All-American and winner of the NCAA high jump title 3 times at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. But his days as a Fair Park Gator shaped his life.
Everything that I accomplished, I can go back and pinpoint to something that somebody taught me or the things that I did back in high school.
After his outstanding high school career, Hollis Conway won a silver medal at the '88 Olympic Games in Seoul and a bronze in Barcelona in 1992. Stay with us. After the break, a basketball player joins her legendary coach in the Hall of Fame, and we honor one of the great high school careers in the history of prep sports. Welcome back. Our next inductee is a lady who enters the Hall as a player and a coach. As a high school basketball player in the late 40s, Frances Lyles may have been ahead of her time. As a high school coach, she was right on time. Frances Lyles was a major part of perhaps the greatest dynasty in the history of prep sports. A 16 points a game scorer at Baskin High School, 3 consecutive state title teams in 1948, 49, and 50. An all-state performer as part of the teams that combined for a 135-0 record.
I was a team player. I loved the game. It didn't matter to me who was recognized, you know, in the papers or whatever. We all played together as a team, and I just loved basketball, and I tried every way I could to, you know, be the player I needed to be.
She was coached by Women's Basketball Hall of Famer and basketball legend Edna Tiny Tarbutton. Lyles was so close to her coach that Edna Tarbutton asked her to serve as her presenter when she was inducted into the Hall of Fame in Knoxville, Tennessee.
She was a good coach. She knew the basic fundamentals of basketball, and she was very strict with discipline. And we knew that, and we knew that if she showed us one thing and wanted us to do it, we knew to try to execute it.
Francis Lyles enters the LHSAA Hall of Fame as a competitor and a coach, having successful tenures coaching basketball and track at Bastrop, Crowville, and Mangum, where she won 9 district, 9 regional, and 3 state track titles.
As a coach, I ate, slept, and drank basketball. And, you know, to me, all these kids that I coached, I still call them kids, are an extension of my family. I have them coming by so frequently. I try to keep tabs of them, and so many of them doing so well out in life until, you know, I'd like to think maybe I had some little small part in helping them get there.
For the record, Coach Lyles says she feels she could compete with today's players. At 5 feet 9 inches tall, she could touch the rim during her days in the 40s. And by the way, the Baskin High School girls basketball team won an amazing 218 consecutive games between 1947 and 1953. It's still a national high school record. Rounding out this year's class is Elena Beard of Southwood High School in Shreveport. Elena led Southwood to 4 state class 5A basketball titles, and she scored a state tournament record 48 points in a single game back in 2000. That's our show. Congratulations to all of the inductees in the LHSAA, LHSCA Sports Hall of Fame. And don't forget to stop by and check out the Hall of Fame room at the association's office on Old Hammond Highway in Baton Rouge. Thanks for joining us. I'm Kim Holden.